Hello there, everyone. Today I'm talking about something that is quite interesting to me, as it revolves around some young readers' novel reprints that I had no idea existed until just a short few days ago. I think a lot of us have been asking for young readers' novel reprints, as the young readers' novels are typically very hard to find. Young readers' novels in the Star Wars Expanded Universe include things like Junior Jedi Knights, Jedi Prince, Galaxy of Fear, Episode 1 Adventures, Episode 2 Adventures, Jedi Apprentice, as seen on the thumbnail, Jedi Quest, Last of the Jedi, Secret Missions, Rebel Force, and probably a few others, Missions, and a few others that I'm neglecting to mention. So there's quite a few young readers novels in the expanded universe, and the young readers novels are actually really quite good, to a lot of people's surprise. They're very mature thematically, and are really some really important expanded universe stories. But a lot of them are very hard to come by, because you have to buy them on the secondhand market, and they can get pretty pricey on the secondhand market. But luckily for the Asian market, they were reprinted over there. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, as we're going to take a look at the covers for all of these reprints that I had no idea existed. I didn't have any idea that these existed until a good friend of mine, a French Expanded Universe fan named Hugo, told me about it and absolutely blew my mind. He sent me a picture of the book, which was a picture that he got from a Facebook group of Star Wars Legends Expanded Universe fans. I think I'm in that group, but since I don't go on Facebook much, I didn't see it. So my friend Hugo was telling me about this for the first time I'd ever seen it. As you can see, I took a screenshot of our messages here, and I was just like, what in the world? And so I searched it and found on Wikipedia, surprisingly, they have these covers up there. And what is really cool about these reprints is the color code that they have, which I've outlined here. Jedi Apprentice is red, Jedi Quest is blue, and Last of the Jedi is black. And it's a color code that they kept up for all of these reprints. So it's quite nice that they had it like in this way, so it all looks like it's part of the same series, but also looks distinct. Interestingly, Last of the Jedi is called Last of the Jedi because originally the Young Readers novel series was called The Last of the Jedi, but I'll talk about that more once we get to those books. So we start with Jedi Apprentice Book 1, The Rising Force by Dave Wolverton. On the left is the original cover. On the right is the updated cover. So what they did on the updated cover, basically it just looks like they copied the first cover, but had someone redraw the art or just put Photoshop on it, put some stars in the background, faded it into the cover, and called it a day. Now you're missing Yoda and Qui-Gon being on the cover, but I don't know. I think the cover on the right looks just as good as the one on the left. It would be very hard for me to pick a winner there. I'd maybe just slightly pick the original cover just because not a lot's going on the reprinted cover, but overall it's a pretty solid cover. Next we have Jedi Apprentice The Dark Rival. Unfortunately, I can't find this image anywhere on the internet in high definition, though some pictures of the actual physical book that I'll show off later. So that will show you a little bit clearer the cover in the pictures, ironically, of the actual book on a shelf. Now, The Dark Rival, I definitely prefer the original cover here. It just looks like they've photoshopped or redrawn the front bit of the duel between Qui-Gon and Xanatos. They've removed Xanatos' face from the background and some of the cool, jungly, smoky effects around them from the original cover, so I feel like it takes a little bit of the character away. Now, that being said, it still looks good. I do like the stylization to it. Qui-Gon still looks like Qui-Gon, Xanatos looks like Xanatos. I do like the stars in the background. It looks like they use the same stars as from the Book 1 printing, The Rising Force, where it has this like purpley pink nebula behind it. Moving on, we get to Jedi Apprentice Book 3, which is also by Jude Watson. All of the Jedi Apprentice books outside of Book 1, The Rising Force, were written by Jude Watson. And this is the hidden past, and this is where they depart from the norm. On the right, it's almost fan art looking, but it is, no doubt about it, completely original new art. And so the new art piece goes across the middle. kind of fades out, it looks like. Now, Qui-Gon has like reddish hair, but he's identifiable as Qui-Gon. It's not that big a discrepancy. Obi-Wan, on the other hand, looks completely different. His braid, his haircut, it's all different. And it's red. It's very red. But that being said, it is really cool art. And it's nice to get another official, maybe, and I'll talk about that a bit later, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan art. Now, on the left, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are also on that cover, so it's not that different as a cover. It still just features Obi-Wan with his lightsaber and Qui-Gon standing behind him. But that being said, I really do think the new art here does make me prefer it, which is a win for the Asian reprint covers for the first time. Next, we have Jedi Apprentice: The Mark of the Crown, which is book 4. The original is a cover that I never liked. I always hated like the weird photoshopped crown in the middle. It just looked so horrible to me. I just always hated that cover. So for that reason, I probably do like the Mark of the Crown Asian reprint cover slightly better. He's on Coruscant, which is a little weird because it doesn't take place on Coruscant. And he's got his lightsaber drawn, and that's clearly taken from the Phantom Menace, because there's definitely a frame where he's holding his lightsaber exactly like that, but they've just touched it up with some Photoshop. Still, it's a pretty good looking cover. I do like it. Moving on to Jedi Apprentice Book 5, we have Jedi Apprentice: The Defenders of the Dead. I really like both of these covers. Obi-Wan looks more like Obi-Wan on this one, I suppose, with his braid, but his hair's still a bit long. And you've got the side characters. I can't remember their names right now for the life of me, but they're really good characters. The girl is someone that Obi-Wan almost like kind of has a thing for, and the guy's a really good character who ends up kind of leading Obi-Wan away from Qui-Gon in this book. It's a super good book, super nuanced for a children's book. I have to give it to the original cover, though. I do prefer that one. I just think it's got more going on in it, and it's more interesting visually. But honestly, this is new art for these characters that have really not been depicted anywhere in the EU other than the original covers. So it's really cool to see them depicted for the first time, really anywhere else. I do like the background. It does look pretty cool here. It looks like they spent more time on it. I do kind of like the slightly animated cartoonish look to this. I think it really fits, really feels really nice. I really dig it. Next, we move on to Jedi Apprentice Book 6, The Uncertain Path. Now, I don't know what's going on with Qui-Gon, if that's supposed to be Qui-Gon there, because that is weird. Looks like the artist, though, was inspired partly from the original Uncertain Path cover, because it keeps that like purplish blue aesthetic to the stars and to the like swirling nebula that was on the original cover. And it looks like they've kept the planet pretty consistent. But Obi-Wan looks completely different. He's more rugged. Looks like he's got a sword in there, almost like AI art or something, with his lightsaber like tucked in as a sword. Qui-Gon's hair is just like a fantasy character. He looks like an elf or something. So I'm not really sure what was going on with the Uncertain Path cover for the Asian reprint, but it's really wacky. And that hair is super red there. Next we have Jedi Apprentice Book 7, which is very strange indeed, like super strange. Because for the Captive Temple here, it's depicting Obi-Wan and Anakin, when this is still Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. So we've got like Attack of the Clones era Obi-Wan, and like a really young looking Anakin. So it's just very confusing. Maybe the artist just saw the original cover, saw Qui-Gon kind of blurry in the back of that cover, and assumed it was Obi-Wan, but no, it is not. So it's kind of strange. I do like the cover for the Asian reprint, the Captive Temple. I like how they're framed in front of the planet. But man, oh man, I'm not overly fond of the fact that these characters are not who is featured in the book. The final one for Jedi Apprentice, though, is Book 8, The Day of Reckoning, which completed the first arc of Jedi Apprentice. Jedi Apprentice Books 9 to 18 and the 2 special editions were not reprinted in the Asian market. They only printed the first 8. That left 20 Jedi Apprentice books unaccounted for the Asian reprints. Now, this really mirrors the original cover, and honestly, it looks really good. Instead of being up on like a hollow screen, though, it's like got his face kind of separately up in the air. It does look really good. The people who were like rioting, who were on Xanatos' side, look really cool though. I think that the artist knows Xanatos has long hair because he puts that there quite pointedly on the Asian reprint cover. I do think Qui-Gon looks great with his saber there, and Obi-Wan looks great with his saber there. They're not in the cages, which is interesting, but still, they're facing Xanatos and his army. And man, I really think the art looks quite terrific on the new cover. This would be a toss-up if I had to pick a favorite. I'd almost lean to the one on the right. Both covers are really good. Moving on to the second series, we get to Jedi Quest Book 1, The Way of the Apprentice. Now, this is technically not Jedi Quest Book 1. Book 1 was called The Path to Nowhere, and it was a hardcover, but this is considered to be Jedi Quest Book 1 because it's the first one in paperback, but there was a Jedi Quest hardcover that came first. Jedi Quest The Way of the Apprentice cover on the left looks fine. The cover on the right, again, just looks really bland and photoshopped. It just like took Anakin, mirrored him, and made him cartoony. The lightsaber is really short. I don't know what's going on with the cover. I definitely prefer the first one here. Book 2 is the same thing. It looks very much like they just took a part of the original cover, put a cartoon filter on it, and called it a day. So the Trail of the Jedi is the one shown here. I do think it looks pretty good, though. I like the kind of green nebula explosion behind them. It looks fairly good. That being said, I would prefer the first one, though the first one is not a cover that I'm super fond of either. Next, we get to Jedi Quest Book 3, The Dangerous Games, which this is clearly just a Photoshop of the original cover. They cut out parts of it and put a cartoon filter on it and called it a day. It's clear as day that is what they did here, or just redrew it from the original cover because it matches it almost perfectly. I do prefer the first cover because some things look a little off about the one on the right, but overall, not a bad effort. Next, we get Jedi Quest Book 4, which once again has the same thing going on, except I'm not sure who the face of the original on the left was supposed to be. I don't know what character it was, but they definitely look very different on the one on the right. I can't tell if maybe it's Ferris Olin, but here is Anakin dueling against Ferris. And I mean, it's pretty good art. It looks alright. And yeah, the Photoshop looks alright as well. I kind of favor the one on the right, actually. The Asian reprint does a little bit of a better job of being visually appealing, I think. Next, we have Jedi Quest Book 6, The Shadow Trap, meaning that they didn't print Jedi Quest Book 5. For some reason, they just didn't print the School of Fear. I do not know why, but that's how it was. This one is clearly inspired from the original, but this time they didn't just like retrace it and put a filter on it. They've made an effort here. I really like the flames around them, the shadows behind them. It does look really cool. Yoda looks great. Anakin looks great. Obi-Wan looks great. I really do like the Asian reprint cover for the Shadow Trap. It's a fun cover. But again, I might give a slight edge to the original Shadow Trap cover, but I don't know. I think the one on the right looks pretty good. Next, we get to the last of the Jedi book series. And yes, you'll notice again, Jedi Quest didn't print the full series. Books 7 to 10 were not reprinted in the Asian market, or at least that I could find. And Last of the Jedi is the next book series we have, and it's the same thing. They didn't print Book 1, The Desperate Mission, for some reason. So they have Last of the Jedi Book 2 is the first one that you can get. It's very clearly inspired from the original cover. The one on the left is better. I think the original cover is pretty good. The one on the right isn't bad, though. Like, it still looks alright for the Dark Warning. It's lacking Ferris, though. Now, this is what I said I'd talk about. The Last of the Jedi book series was called The Last of the Jedi for the first 5 books. Books 6 to 10 were called Last of the Jedi. So they changed the book series title 5 books in. But here, they keep the later title, interestingly, and don't put the on the cover, which I found to be interesting. Next, we have Last of the Jedi Book 3, which is Underworld. And they've done a little bit of things differently for this cover, like people are in different places, looks to be formatted slightly differently. Ferris looks like Ferris and not like whoever was on the original cover. Like, I do like that the person who did this one clearly knows who Ferris Olin looks like, because they made Ferris look like Ferris, so that's good. Dexter looks really cool on it as well as Trevor, who looks pretty good on this one. I think the new cover is pretty cool, but it's clearly been inspired from the original. I do think it's slightly more artistic, and I like that it's level instead of like off kilter. I don't know, I like them both. Next, we have Last of the Jedi Book 4, which is very different. It's framed differently. So on Last of the Jedi Book 4, on Death on Naboo, on the first cover, we have the Inquisitor, whose name is slipping my mind right now. Began with an M. It was like Malorum or something like that. So Malorum, we'll just go with it. I can't remember if that was his actual name, but Malorum is in the front of the original cover, and Ferris Olin is facing him from way back, down smaller, farther away in the perspective from the cover. But here they switch the views, and they've got Ferris Olin closer to us, and they've got Malorum with a head-on view, which I believe is the first time that Malorum's been depicted from the front. So it's kind of cool to get the character like that for once. I like that their capes are blowing in the wind, their armor looks cool. I think the duel on the cover on the right looks better, and I like the stars behind it. It's fun, it's artistic, it looks cool. But I think it's interesting that they changed the framing for Last of the Jedi Book 4. Then we have Last of the Jedi Book 5, which is our final cover to compare. A Tangled Web. This is hilarious to me, the cover on the right. It looks horrible. He looks so big and wide and chunky, Palpatine does, and the lightning's coming weirdly all around him. I don't know, I don't like it. It's cool that he's on a throne, I guess, and it's cool that they did something different, but I do prefer the original cover. I do like that they tried something different with the Asian reprint on this occasion, though. Good on them. Now, I'm sure people are going to be very curious to see what these books actually look like in print. So here you have them, because when I originally saw the cover, I was like, man, these look like these could have been ebooks or something. You'll notice that Rebel Force is there as well. From what I've seen, they reprinted Rebel Force books 1 to 3 with the Legends banner. So that would be them for the first time with the Legends banner. And didn't print books 4 to 6 of Rebel Force. So you can see books 2 and 3 right there for Rebel Force down on the bottom right. The reason I didn't compare the covers is they're not different covers. They kept the covers the same, which makes me wonder why they changed the covers in the first place for the other series. Now, what we've heard is that Scholastic lost the rights to print Star Wars books. So it's very confusing then, like, who is reprinting these? Does Scholastic still have the rights in Asia to print these? Or is this not Scholastic? Are these official or are they not? Now, note that the covers for these all appear on Wikipedia, which Wikipedia obviously isn't super reliable or a paragon of truth by any means. But at the same time, they've got them on there. So they try to avoid unofficial stuff, and they try to avoid bootleg covers or bootleg information. Non-official information is what Wikipedia tries to avoid. So it would be weird if these are bootlegs, if just some random small-time companies printing these without Disney's knowledge, especially because the Disney's logo is on the back. This is what the back cover looks like, and this is when we learn when they were printed. They were printed in 2015, as it's trademarked to Lucasfilm Ltd. 2015 Scholastic. Did Scholastic still have the rights in 2015? Because we've heard that the reason that the Young Readers novels aren't being reprinted is Scholastic lost the rights to do Star Wars books. Maybe so. Maybe 2015 they still had the rights. Maybe these are official. Maybe they're a bootleg. We don't really know. Here's a collage of some of the other covers in physical form look like that I wanted to show. Specifically, look at how the Legends banner doesn't continue around to the spine. I think the spine is really cool, so I've got the spine on the bottom middle picture because I think it's quite cool. They've got a 3 on there, so apparently they're numbered, and the Scholastic logo on the spine, as well as the author and the Star Wars logo. On the right, you've got Last of the Jedi and Jedi Apprentice, Book 2, The Dark Rival. You've got Jedi Quest up on the top right, and then you've got The Hidden Past with a really horrible tilted cover. I do not know what is going on with that, but that has clearly been misprinted horribly, and it's not like that for every copy of The Hidden Past, because you can see The Hidden Past on the image on the top left as well. On the bottom left, you have The Uncertain Path interior, and we can see that the book is in fact in English, so this isn't in any kind of Asian language. The interior of this book is printed in English, so it's not a translation into another language, it's just the Asian market edition. And interestingly, they've printed the Legends banner onto the inside title page, which is kind of strange. In the picture beside it, you can see some really beaten up copies that have 20% off stickers stamped on the front. These appear to be sized the same as the US Young Readers novels for the EU, but I don't know that for certain. I just find this whole case really strange. I've assembled some of the others that I could find in physical format from some Asian websites that you could order these from if you live there. They don't ship to the US, sadly, because as a collector, I would really love to get these. But they look pretty cool. And it's kind of disappointing that these haven't been reprinted yet, these books, in the US. If the Asian market got them, why can't we? Now, where specifically were these printed? I've seen a lot on the Philippines websites. So the Philippines is a group of islands that makes up a nation in Asia, and they must speak English somewhat prominently, kind of in a similar situation to Singapore is an Asian nation that speaks a lot of English. Likewise, I believe the Philippines is a country that speaks a lot of English and is one of those countries in Asia that's quite westernized. So that could be why the Asian market in the Philippines got these. It looks like these were mainly printed in the Philippines because there's a lot of Philippines websites that are selling these. Anyways, this is just really wild, really wacky, really cool. I had no idea these existed. So thank you to Hugo for shedding some light on these and sending it my way. It really blew my mind. And I'd really love to track these down and get them now. It would be super fun to be able to find these and add them to my Expanding Universe collection. Another YouTuber talked about these literally a couple days ago. When I had been working on this video, I'd already assembled the slides and written some of my thoughts down that I wanted to cover. And when I saw Son of Luke, who I met at LegendsCon and is a great YouTube channel that you should check out, had done a monthly update video, and I watched it, and he started talking about it, and I was like, aha, someone beat me to the punch. So go check out Son of Luke's video. I'll link it in the description. He talked about these there as well, had some great thoughts as always, and gave his update of the EU for the month, and he touched on these there because he became aware of these for the first time around the same time as I did. These have been out for 8 years already, but I just had no idea these existed. They completely escaped my notice, as they apparently had from him as well. And he used this as an opportunity to say, why can't we get Young Readers novels reprinted in the US, kind of as a rallying call, which is something that I fully believe as well. We need to get these reprinted in the US, because there's fans coming to the franchise now that don't have the money to track down the original copies, and it would be really, really great if we can get these reprinted and more widely available for modern audiences of the Expanded Universe. With that being said, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about today's topic. What do you guys think of these covers? Do you guys like them? Let me know in the comments.